My name's Pete Shearman, I'm 40, I live in Tunbridge, and this is my story. My first memory really was Father's Day 1987, and my dad was leaving. Unfortunately, he couldn't cope with civilian life after leaving the Royal Navy. So my first memory as a child was my dad left. So it was just me and my mum and my sister. I left school at 14. My mum didn't know that at the time. She thought I was still going to school, but I would take my school uniform and I would take my old jeans and that, and I'd work on a building site from the age of 14 to 16. It was just, again, looking for approval. And that is when I first encountered alcohol. Alongside that, I was very good at football. So at 14, I was playing for men's football teams. So after a game, you went to a pub. And because I was all with men, I didn't get questioned about my age. And I discovered alcohol that way. From 14 to 18, I would say my alcohol intake was low for where it projected to in later life. But I could tell that I enjoyed it because it was a part of escapism from what had happened previous. As I came back to Tunbridge, nothing really had changed here. It was a small town. People I grew up with was still playing football, so I got back into that. I got into a relationship while I was there with a girlfriend, and it was a very toxic relationship on both sides, my alcohol, and also she wasn't very nice to me physically and mentally. But the fear of partly being on my own and partly also I had no one to ask, or partly not to ask what a relationship should look like, and also I didn't want to worry my family, and especially my mum who brought me up on her own. So I let her believe that everything was fine when we had lunches round hers or meeting up. That relationship ended very badly, and we parted ways. But at that point, I was vastly in debt, probably about 4 times my yearly salary, because I'd got credit card. Oh, I can have a credit card that can pay for this year's drinking. I can pay, and it's just stacked up and stacked up. My drinking had increased. My weight had increased. At 18, I was about 14, 15 stone. At this point, I was about 26, 27 stone. And again, that fed into my feeling of, I'm going to be on my own. Who wants to be with me? I'm a 48-inch waist. All I do is drink. But I carried on because I got the approval from other drinkers in the pub. Oh, look, that's Pete, he can drink, he can put away his drink. And that became my identity. My drinking got progressively heavier. It had become the norm for me to not eat for days, because partly, that £3 that I could spend on a bag of chips, that's a bottle of cider, so which one would I prefer? Well, the cider. I'd drink anything or anything. If it was alcohol, I'd drink it pretty much. I got more aggressive, especially on nights out, and I became a different person with the alcohol. I used to come to church once in a blue moon when I was half cut, wanting to sing song on a Sunday night. It was my way of thinking, oh, I'm not too bad because I can still come to church and have a sin song, and that's what good people do. And then one Sunday night, I remember there was a guy that got up and talked about this course called a recovery course. And I remember sitting there thinking, well, I don't really like coughing up on the way to work, and I don't really like coughing blood and that. And if it helps me cut down a little bit and lose a bit of weight, I might get a girlfriend and I might be able to play football a bit more. So apparently I signed up for it. I couldn't tell you how I signed up for it because I was probably more drunk than I thought in church. But I signed up for it. I didn't really know what to expect. I heard that there was a meal, which was a bonus because I could try to eat after struggling to keep my food down. I remember walking around the church about 5 times, debating whether to attend the first evening. I walked in and I expected a massive one big circle and having to stand up and say, hi, I'm Pete, I'm blah, 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 blah. It's not what I found. We were put in there were small circles of chairs, sat down, little welcome, and then had dinner, which was lovely. And it was quite comfortable to talk and just be, no one knew me there, so I didn't have to put up a face. It was reassuring as well because I spoke to a couple of the leaders and they'd all said that they'd overcome something that there was, at the time I didn't think of it as an addiction, I thought of it as a lifestyle thing. But now obviously I know better, and it really hit home, them sharing their experience. Something definitely happened that night, but I left the meeting and I thought, I'm being silly, I can't do this, and I headed straight for a pub and got absolutely drunk. The next morning was a bit of guilt that I'd signed up for this thing and I should really give it a go. And I hadn't prayed for years and years and years. And so I just said, look, God, if you are real and you want me to stop this, just help me stop. And that was on the Wednesday. And I had 2 bottles of cider left in the fridge, I remember. And I had them thinking, oh, well, I said this prayer, but nothing, I'm not really going to change. And the next day, I had no alcohol in the house. So I thought, right, I'll go to work. So I went to work. And then I came home and I went to bed because it was shift work. And one day, at a time, I hadn't had a drink and I felt a bit vulnerable, a bit scared, but I'd lasted a week. And I remember going back into a meeting and rather than thinking they're going to say, well, it's a week, it's not bad, it's all right, it's a good achievement, they encouraged me and I just felt different, whether partly with prayer, partly with, I'm convinced, with prayer and the support of people that had been there or in similar situation to me. The course lasted for about 13 weeks and each week I'd go back and I said I hadn't had a drink and my appetite started to come back. My redness in my face had slowly disappeared. And it was just really encouraging for me to see people that were just walked alongside me. That was in 2017. And I genuinely believe I wouldn't be sitting here now if I hadn't attended that course. I think my drinking would have escalated, and I definitely wouldn't be here. It's been tough times since. It's been testing times since. I'm now 5.5 years sober. The tools I learnt on the course were massive in keeping my head above, away from drink at times. It partly as well, I believe that prayer I said, God honoured it. I'm now about 10 stone lighter, which helps me is in my self-worth. And looking back at the time, I didn't have self-worth, partly about maybe what I dealt with through the course, what happened to me in my childhood, which I hadn't even anticipated the effect that had had on me, even as a 30-odd-year-old bloke. It's massive to think of where I was that first meeting to now, with all life's ups and downs, and like I say, hard times and good times. I can generally say that I wasn't expecting, or I didn't think I had the potential to be the person I am now. That the course unlocked it. In the future, I want to help others that I felt in a similar situation that I found myself in. None of us are a finished article, as in people, where everyone wants to be a better version of themselves than there was last week. So, yeah, I would just encourage you to really think about it and give yourself a chance to change.